Today, I'm going to show you how to dramatically improve your child's performance through just a few minor dietary changes. I'm Adam Huco. I played on the U.S. men's national water polo team, and I coach at North Irvine Water Polo Club. Now, as their coach, I'm trying to find ways to improve their performance both in and outside of practice. So I created this channel, Life Kitchen, where I'm going to show you how simple changes can lead to profound results. I did an experiment. I had the kids swim 100 yards 15 times. They had 1 minute and 30 seconds to finish each 100-yard swim. So if a swimmer came in at 1 minute and 15 seconds, they would get 15 seconds rest before the next 100-yard swim. If a swimmer came in at 1 minute and 29 seconds, they would have 1 second rest before the next interval. It is a series of threshold sprints back to back designed to exhaust them. I am not only trying to understand their top swim speed over a single burst, but I am interested in their capacity to sustain that repeatedly. Now let's look at the first test I did. Here at the start, my top swimmers are within 1 stroke of each other, with the third swimmer clearly behind. These two swimmers are always competitive across the many practices we've done over the year. Here, by the end of the test, you can see the top 2 swimmers are still very close, but the third swimmer is actually even closer. He may not be as fast when everyone is fresh, but his consistency and endurance has helped him catch up with the others as their fatigue sets in. I decided to give my top 2 swimmers a high-performance nutrition plan for 1 day. One of my top 2 swimmers followed the diet and complied, but the other didn't. This actually became a kind of blessing in disguise because we get to see the difference this diet makes between my top 2 athletes. Exactly 7 days after the first test, I ran the test again. In the beginning of the second test, we basically see the same situation as the beginning of the first test. My top 2 swimmers, both the one that complied with the 24-hour diet change and the one who didn't, are neck and neck, same as always. And the third swimmer is behind, just like before. So let's look at where they end up at the end of the test. What you see here is that my top 2 swimmers are no longer competitive. The one that complied is now clearly ahead in an entirely new class. These guys push each other and motivate each other. They were giving it their all commendably. They pushed so hard the whole time that they left the third swimmer in the dust by over half a pool length back. Both of my top 2 athletes beat their times from the previous week, yet the one that followed the diet not only shattered his previous personal score, but he became unrivaled. How could a single day of dietary change give an athlete more of a performance gain than we would expect in months of training? Let's take a look. In this performance nutrition plan, we focused on 3 areas: vasodilation, low inflammatory foods, and glucose metabolism. Now, vasodilation is where your veins and arteries are more open, or they're dilated, so that the heart can pump oxygen and nutrients to the body more easily. Now, there are foods that increase the molecule nitric oxide, such as beets, chard, rich leafy greens like kale, dandelion greens. What this does is that to achieve the same output, your heart has to work less hard, which instantly improves cardio and endurance. So in the next principle, we focused on low inflammation foods. And to reduce inflammation on game day, we removed high inflammatory foods like dairy and meat. So we replaced it with anti-inflammatory foods like celery, ginger, and turmeric. Now, inflammation is considered by many the cornerstone of disease. When you get sick and you get a sore throat, that's inflammation. Now, certain foods can cause the inflammatory response in the body to spike, which in turn is your body breaking down faster. And so the point of failure is a lot closer. So by removing inflammatory foods, we are pushing away the inflammatory response, which improves endurance. The next area we focused on was glucose metabolism. Now, your body requires sugar to function. Your muscles need glucose to engage. The problem with extracted sugars is that they absorb too quickly and deplete too quickly. And so it changes the metabolic action timing in an unfavorable way for endurance. So if you take an apple and extract the sugars and consume that sugar, you absorb it quickly and it depletes quickly. So it causes a volatile response in the glucose metabolism, which is unfavorable for endurance athletes. Whereas if you eat the whole apple, because that sugar is bound to fiber, you smooth out the glucose response, which causes the body to perform in a more consistent way over time, which is beneficial for an endurance athlete. After seeing what high performance eating can do in 24 hours, as a parent, look back at your own life. What would have changed if you were 10, 20% better? Where would you be right now? There are so many things we can do to improve your child's performance or your performance, where the only real limitations are in your level of commitment and the budget you assign. But I want to help everyone, whether your budget is $0 or
somewhere between 700 billion and $1.3 trillion.
The only true commitment I require is for you to call me at the number on the screen. For my own kid, we came up with a plan that addresses his sleep, his nutrition, his fitness and training, and his environment that includes mitigating endocrine disruptors, which I'm going to cover in the next Life Kitchen video. We go into each of these sections deeply. And for example, here is what we are doing for his nutrition segment. We are doing a series of panels. The first one is a cellular micronutrient test. This looks at his cells for any nutritional deficiencies. By looking at the cells, we see what nutrition is actually making it into the physical cell. This takes out all the guesswork for where he might be deficient in certain biological building blocks. The next panel we are doing is called a nutrigenomic test. This tells us the metabolic rate of nutrient uptake. So what this means is we are able to see the deficiencies in the first test and cross-reference them to the nutrigenomic test. This helps us understand how much to increase the deficient nutrients by in order to reach ideal levels based on my kid's exact DNA. The last panel we are looking at is called a delayed food allergy test. This checks the immune system's reactions to certain foods which are otherwise considered healthy, which can cause heightened levels of inflammation. For example, let's say you give an apple to 5 people. In 4 of these people, it could be a perfectly healthy food, where in the 5th, it could cause an unfavorable immunoresponse in only that individual. So for this person, an apple is not ideal. We would find another food that meets their exact nutritional requirement. If you assign a budget for your kid that's higher than I assigned for mine, there's even more we can do. If you don't have the same budget, that's okay. I will still find a way to help you. It's important to instill healthy, lifelong habits early because you've heard it said before, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Battleships, attack, attack, attack.
Now that's not exactly true because you can relearn new habits. It's just the sooner you start, the better. If there's a subject you want to learn more about, leave a comment, and I will make a video of the one that gets the most likes.